friend. You're listening to The Sustainable Bodyworker, the podcast for massage therapists who want to grow thriving, purpose-led businesses without the burnout. Here we talk about nervous system aligned business strategy, pricing that makes sense, client work that doesn't deplete you, and how to build a career that actually supports your life. I'm your host, Gretchen Popp, massage therapist, mentor, educator, and recovering overachiever. Let's get into it. Welcome back, friends. I am so happy you're here for this one because this episode is really special to me. First, I want to say thank you, genuinely. The way that this podcast has been growing, the shares, the comments, the DMs from practitioners telling me an episode hit right where they needed it, it keeps me going. If you've been listening for a while and haven't yet left a comment or review on whatever platform you use, I'd love it if you did. It takes 2 minutes and it genuinely helps us reach more body workers who are ready for this message. Now, I also want to give you one last heads up before we dive in. Enrollment for the Sustainable Bodyworker membership is still open, and this is your chance to join us before our 90-day roadmap workshop. It's a CE-eligible workshop, just like all of our monthly trainings, and it's designed to help you map out your next 90 days in a way that's actually sustainable, not just strategic. The link is in the show notes if you want to grab your spot. Okay, today's guest is someone who is near and dear to my heart. Alyse Faith has been a huge part of my own journey, both in business and personally, ever since we first connected back in early 2020. She's someone I genuinely consider a close friend and honestly a big sister figure for me. She gives me the tough love. She teaches 2 masterclasses inside the Sustainable Bodyworker membership, one on adding retail to your business, which is such an underrated revenue stream, and another on deepening your connection to your own intuition and practice. Both of them are incredible, and both of them are things that can genuinely change the trajectory of a sustainable business. This is also Alyse's second time on the show. If you haven't heard episode 20 on intuitive flow, go back and listen to that one too. You'll want to listen to that one. Today, we're talking about what happens after you've built something that looks successful on paper and then realized it's not actually working for you anymore. We go deep on the messy middle of letting go, nervous system chaos, grief, creativity, and what it looks and feels like to actually trust your own signals. If you're a multi-passionate practitioner who's been feeling a pull to pivot but keeps talking yourself out of it, this is your permission slip. Let's go. Alyse, you're here for a second time, and I'm so grateful. And before we get into it, for anyone who didn't listen to the first episode that you recorded with Kelsey and I, for anyone who doesn't know who you are already, give us a brief introduction.
Is Alyse Faith Shine. I go on social media by Alyse Faith. I had for a while, and I am an intuitive psychic medium, massage therapist, also energy worker, and ordained minister. And now, well, not now, I've been a shop owner, a retail shop owner for, since 2020, I guess it was. So almost going on 6 years.
Yeah, that was a COVID shop opening, and that's
Yes.
very
Yes.
challenging. You've been through the ringer on that, and
Oh,
watching
yes.
you has been really cool. And part of the reason why we wanted to, well, I could chat with you for hours, but one of the things that we kind of thought about talking about on this next episode together had a lot to do with how that evolved for you.
Right.
And in relation to kind of evolutions as body workers, kind of shifting up the entrepreneur game, especially when we're at the top of our game and kind of letting things go.
Yes.
We've both done really similar things in the sense of like building something up and then being like, okay, I'm done. What's next?
Right.
So
Check.
give us a little like timeline overview of like the bird's eye view of what that was like for you.
Okay. Well, to start from the beginning, I didn't go to massage school until I was 39 years old. I wanted to do something that was flexible to be there for my kids and also be helping people. And I went to massage school and I fell in love. And I remember just crying in class and being like, what took me so long to find this? Like, really just falling in love with body work, falling in love with hands-on work, being one-on-one with people. And I went into private practice pretty much right away. I worked at the Ritz-Carlton for a few years while I was building up my practice, but I had opened a practice right away. And it really helped me so much with my life in general because I was going through problems in my marriage at the time. And it gave me something that was mine outside of my relationship, outside of being a mom, outside of, my family. And it was such an empowering feeling and such a pivotal thing in my life. So going, starting in my early 40s to have something, and I kept referencing in my mind to like Virginia Woolf's Room of One's Own. I was like, I have that. And I had the physical space to go when I needed to get the mental space. And then just being able to help people while I was healing. And I kept thinking of that too. I was like, I'm healing myself while I'm healing others. So that was really important to me in my 40s. I expanded and I expanded and I expanded. And I ended up taking over a bigger space and then having renters and having subcontractors and having this retail space in 20, I guess it was, yeah, it was early 2020. I had signed a lease to take over even more space in my healing center that I had in White Plains. And I had lined up like childbirth educators, sound healers, all these different people to join the collective. It was called the Healing Collective. And on the first floor, which was the street level, was going to be a movement studio to do qigong and yoga, etc. And I did all the renovations and then COVID hit. So I spent all this money, I gathered all these people, all but I think 3 people said peace out, like I can't do this. I understand we didn't have contracts. There was nothing that I could have held them on to. Meanwhile, I was paying rent the whole time because, the landlord did not give a fuck. So that's what happened then. And then kind of organically, things started falling away. And towards the end of my lease at that place, my subcontractor is one of my besties. She moved away. So I lost that. And then little by little, the renters were leaving, the subcontractors were quitting. And it was like the universe was really saying, okay, this is time to move on. And then the final piece of that was my landlords said that they were taking over the retail space. They were going to put their accounting office in my crystal shop. And so then we found a space in Sleepy Hollow for our retail shop. And I was like, what am I going to do with the bodywork business? And that was a whole thing that happened December of 2024. And 2025 was a big, huge shift and change after that. And that kind of almost leads us up to today.
Yeah, it makes me think, when you're talking about all of those pieces falling away, how much of that happened like over the course of a long period of time and how much of it happened kind of all at once? Because I kind of have like a similar experience in growing my clinic of having, especially once the idea in my head of like maybe this isn't the right thing for me,
Yeah.
like these pieces start falling away and it seemed like a tumult, just one after the other,
Yep.
kicking me while I'm down kind of a scenario. It got laughable, really. And so I'm wondering also, as it relates to the past year that we had, it being the year of the snake and lots of shedding and final cycle, year of 9, right? There's completion and a lot of like
Yes.
letting go. And I'm curious as to your thoughts on that and how that may
Yes.
have influenced or played into or validated what you were going through.
It's so interesting because that's all stuff that, I mean, I feel like you and I have talked about that privately also, and just stuff that I talk about all the time is I really love Abraham Esther Hicks. Highly recommend anybody who's listening to this to look into that. It's about being in the vortex. It's about manifesting and whatever you're focusing your energy. There's a lot of law of attraction, but it's deeper than that. And one of the things that they talk about is once you have an idea, once you have a spark, then I'm getting chills. You've planted seeds in a garden with that spark. And you don't need to even do anything. those seeds are already taking root and they're starting to grow. So you had this idea, just that little spark of maybe there's something else. And that's what I was feeling too, is like, I don't really love being a landlord, A. B, I don't really love managing people anymore.
Tell me about it,
C,
sister.
yeah.
Oh my God.
See, I don't really love having to chase people, like deal with their rescheduling and all of their like the one-on-one stuff of like if three people canceled in a week, that really like
Yeah.
completely screwed me up.
Yeah.
Or if I had to reschedule people, like where am I going to fit them in if I have a completely packed schedule? So all of that stuff started to really get to me because I was very busy. And that's what you and I were talking about was like top of the game. Yes, very busy, packed schedule, but that creates other problems because
Yep.
now you have this packed schedule. You still have a life. What are you going to do if something happens? Like my back went out at one point and I had to reschedule everybody. I had to have surgery at one point. I had to like, everyone's like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know. So to get back to the seeds, like those plants were germinating, they were growing without us even doing anything about it. And it's interesting you said like that you were almost felt like you were being beaten while you were down, but I don't see it that way. I don't see that you were down. I see that they were helping you. They were
Mm,
really creating space for you to make those moves. And my husband Mike and I say all the time, like, we were so pissed off at our landlord for saying like that wasn't an option for us to keep the retail shop. And now we're like, we should be sending them flowers
yeah.
because it was such a wonderful aligned move for us to move our shop to Sleepy Hollow. So our shop was a witchy shop and crystals and tarot cards and candles and all that kind of stuff. And Sleepy Hollow, if people don't know about it, it's the home of the Headless Horseman. Washington Irving wrote the tale about it. And it's really like kind of Salem light. And there's no shop like that in Sleepy Hollow. So there was this void that we filled and people responded so amazingly well and our shop like completely took off and bloomed and blossomed. And it's all because of those things that fell away. And when my subcontractors quit, I remember when the last one called me to quit. She was really kind of upset about it. And she was so grateful. She's like, "Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was like wonderful." And I really loved her. But I was like, "Okay." And she was like, "Oh, that was easier than I thought." And I was like, "Yeah, because I kind of expected it because that
Yeah.
was the last piece." I was like, "What am I going to do with her?" And I didn't have to deal with it because the universe or whatever forces are at play were like, "Okay, I'm just going to remove this last obstacle for you." And it
Yeah.
wasn't anything to worry about. So I feel like that's the reframe of like it wasn't these things happening to us, it was happening for us.
Yeah.
Oh, did you
Yeah.
hear that beep?
That was actually my penf mat turning off.
Okay, still
But
confirmation.
I love it. I love it. You know that moment when you realize you can't keep doing this alone? When every client cancellation throws off your entire day? When you're answering texts at 9 p.m., you're doing the laundry and the bookkeeping and the social media and the actual body work, and you're watching your life pass by from the treatment room? Maybe you've thought about hiring help. Maybe you've even looked into it or hired someone who didn't work out. But then the questions and troubles flooded in. How do I afford to pay someone when I'm barely paying myself? What if I hire the wrong person? What if I can't find anyone good? What if it makes everything more stressful instead of less? I get it. I've been there. And here's what I want you to know. The practitioners inside the Sustainable Bodyworker membership had those exact same fears. They were stretched impossibly thin, doing every single task in their business alone, terrified of what hiring might cost them in money, in time, in mistakes. And now they have teams that run smoothly while they work fewer hours. They're taking real vacations without their business falling apart. They've built practices where they show up as the practitioner, not the laundry service, not the receptionist, not the marketing department. They're leading teams that expand and inspire this profession, and they're doing it without burning themselves out. One of my members was drowning in the day to day tasks of running her practice. She knew she needed help, but had no idea where to start. Inside the membership, she learned how to hire her first employee the right way, how to find the right fit, how to train them, how to structure their role so it actually freed her up instead of creating more work for her. Now she has time to focus on the parts of her business she actually loves. She's no longer answering every text, doing every load of laundry, managing every single detail. She built a team that supports her vision, and her business is thriving because of it. Another member came in feeling completely overwhelmed, managing chronic illness while trying to keep her practice afloat. She was terrified of hiring because she didn't think she could afford it. But once she implemented the systems we teach, she brought on support and it completely transformed her life. She's no longer sacrificing her health for her business. She has a team she trusts, and she finally has the space to breathe. Now, here's the thing, these members didn't have extra money sitting around when they started, they didn't have it all figured out. They had the same fears, the same doubts, the same packed schedules you probably have right now. What changed wasn't their circumstances, it was the support they received. Inside the Sustainable Bodyworker membership, you get step by step training on how to hire your first employee the right way, from writing the job post to onboarding to creating systems that actually work and what to actually pay them. You get monthly coaching calls where you can ask questions in real time and get personalized guidance. You get a hypnotherapy library to rewire the limiting beliefs that keep you stuck because I can't afford help and I have to do it all myself are just stories your nervous system is telling you to keep you safe, and they keep you stuck. And you get a community full of body workers who are building teams, sharing what's working, and cheering you on when it feels hard. So if you're ready to stop doing everything alone, if you're ready to build a business that doesn't require you to sacrifice your body, your time, or your sanity, if you're ready to step into leadership and create a practice that actually supports your life, head to the link in the show notes and use the code SBCPOD to get a special discount just for podcast listeners. Because you don't need to keep white knuckling your way through this. You don't need to wait until you're, quote, making enough money. You just need someone who's done this, who's built a team, managed employees, and created systems that work to show you exactly how. I'll see you inside. But I mean, also it's interesting because when you said you got chills, I got chills as well. Like that entire idea of the seed that has been planted, even by having that imagination. Now, of course, here's where my brain went with that. I have quite the imagination, as you know. Like, I have
Yes.
business idea after business idea. One of my favorite things to do with my friends or my coaching students or anyone that's like working on something, I love just being like, ooh, and if you do that, then you can add on this idea and then you can market it in this way. And that's a really fun way. I love doing that for other people. And I, of course, am just in la la land all the time with my own businesses. And I wonder, like, my brain immediately went to, like, oh shit, should I not be in imagination land about all these other business ideas when I'm trying to grow this thing that has purpose and meaning? Because I get so, I think a part of me and what I had a lot of identity crisis around, which I haven't really spoken about publicly, and I intend to now that I've kind of come full circle around this. But I had such an attachment to the identity of the clinic owner, the successful clinic owner. I kind of made it in the massage world of like what the, at least in my mind, was like, this is what success looks like as a massage therapist. You have employees, you have a successful business with all these 5-star reviews, you're a teacher and you have people from all over the world taking your class. I'm like, cool, I made it.
An
And then
awesome class, by the way.
thank you. I loved putting together that class and it was such a passion project at the time. And I am one of those people where, like, when I get excited about something, I love making it. And it
Yeah.
turns out pretty well usually when I have that fire and passion behind it.
Yeah.
But letting it fall away, there's such an identity tied to that. And we spoke about this when we talked privately a little while ago, but there's like this hermit crab or like soft shell like feeling when you're transitioning from one scenario to another, and it's vulnerable. And I mean, so to speak a little bit more about what I meant about being kicked while I was down, the process of recognizing that I needed to sell the clinic and move on and move into a different state, the process of buying a house and home ownership in general, like all of that really kind of, whew, at the same time, like it planted something really cool. I kind of see it as like it was tilling the soil and it was
Yeah.
like pulling all that up and putting a bunch of compost with it, which at the end of the day is shit, right? But it
Right.
nourishes
Yes.
the soil
Yes.
and it
Good
mixed it
point.
all up in there, and then the seeds, the plants can start to germinate. So all of this to say, I wonder about the impact of being an imaginatory person and allowing those thoughts to go around on different ideas regularly. And I think I've always had this feeling like I'm flaky because I bounce from idea to idea to idea. I'm like a little bumblebee with my business ideas.
I it's interesting because when you're saying imagination, you're saying that those are the same as thoughts almost. You said something about
Hmm.
like these thoughts. I don't see imagination as being thought. I see imagination as being creativity and inspiration from possibly an external collective source. I think that's very different than thinking. The thinking comes into play when you start to plug those things into your computer in your brain. But the inspiration that you're getting and the imagination is intuition, is creativity, is inspiration that is coming from, I believe, an aligned source that is kind of tapping at you and being like, well, how do you feel about this? And then when you add that passion to it, that's when it can become something great. And yes, you can have a gazillion ideas, right? This isn't necessarily creativity. And I don't know about you, we've talked about, like, the last podcast was about flow state. Sometimes when I'm in a session, my brain just goes and I have all these amazing ideas. And I'll go sometimes and I'll write them down, and maybe like one of them will stick. But you're in a flow state, you're getting that creative inspiration. But what do you feel passionate about? And how many of those things have you done that you felt like, about
Mm-hmm.
that didn't really work out? And the ones that you felt like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And then you plug in the brain and then you plug in the passion. That's when something can become like super incredible and magic. And you talked about the year of the snake. This is the a 1 year, and this is a year of the fire horse.
I'm a
Um,
horse, by the
oh,
way. So
oh, that's
watch out,
awesome.
world.
Well, I'm an Aries. Aren't you a fire sign too?
I'm an air sign.
You're an
So,
air sign.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're gonna stoke the fire then.
Oh, yeah.
So for fire signs and for anyone, this is a year of creativity and of creating things that are new. And I invite everybody to really feel into what you're passionate about and know that the energy of this year is going to really help to propel all of that and all those ideas. And I also want to get back to what you were saying about the identity crisis, because that's definitely a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the same way. And I don't want to say ego in a bad way, but it's like how we identify ourselves as
Yes.
humans. It's like we want to put these labels on us. And there was something very satisfying about like being on the top of our game.
Yep.
And I remember talking to my friend Melinda Liu, who is an amazing coach, and she's like, you're like top 1% of massage therapists, and so were you.
Yep.
And that is an amazing place to be. And I didn't need any recognition because I felt it. I knew that I had a wait list. I knew that I had, been charging what some people considered like an outrageous amount, and people weren't flinching about it. Like all of those things showed me that I was on the top of my game, and I just felt it. I just knew. I was like, God damn, that was a great session.
Yeah.
And I loved being that person that could help people. And my business had evolved to where I was doing what I call transformational healing sessions, where I was combining all of these different tools that I had developed over the years of energy healing and intuitive reading and body work and sometimes cupping and SMRT, like all of these different things together. And people were seeing huge benefits. And I was getting these like incredible testimonials for people. Like I had this one client whose father had passed away and she couldn't move past this like very stuck grief that she was in. Not that she's not grieving anymore, but she said one session with me was more transformational than years of therapy that she had. And I was like, God damn, like, how do you give that up?
Yeah.
How do you give that up knowing that you are changing people's lives? And the way that I had to let that go was, and this is what we talked about privately, which we can let the public know, is that I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it. And I had clients reaching out to me, and I was like, all this resistance was coming up, and all this, like, the only two things that would have kept me in that were that I wanted to help people was the first person, and money was the second one.
Yeah.
And I was like, are those really, to go back to Abraham and Esther Hicks, are those really vortex things? Are these things that are
Mm.
bringing me joy? Are these things that are filling me with passion? I mean, I'm 50, going to be 55 this year, year of change, five fives.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to be doing stuff I don't want to be doing.
Yeah. I
And
felt
I
very much the
understand.
same way
Yeah.
about letting go of the clinic. I was, and it's interesting too, because I was, especially when it comes down to the identity too, getting identified, even though that is a very 3D egoistic kind of, as you said, like it really helped me get into the embodiment of who I needed to be in order for that entity to be successful. And I got so into leadership. I got so into like hiring models and figuring out people and making sure I had a great workplace to work. And the ethos was behind it as well. So that really drove me like, no, I should be doing this. And one thing I wanted to ask you about too, because I'm sure you've experienced this along the way, even though you mentioned that things were kind of falling away as they needed to for that process to evolve. And I'm sure there were moments of resistance that popped up for you as well, challenges that were unforeseen, life events, whether it's, sickness or family life or whatever. Just there's always going to be those challenges and bumps in the road. So, yes, there can be scenarios where as we evolve and we just allow things to fall away, there's also the necessary challenges or obstacles that we need to overcome in order to, I think that the purpose of it, if we are searching for a purpose to it other than just life being chaos, the purpose is to give us the necessary lesson or growth in order to become the person that needs to embody that next version of your life,
Yeah.
right? So I'm curious, if you want to share any that you went through or what your take on that, and how do you discern from, because just to be really transparent, by the time I moved into this house, and you've heard a lot of the things that went on,
Just
by
a
the
few challenges.
just
Just
a
a
few,
few.
by the time I actually got my butt into the house, we already were just like bombarded with wow. Even the process of selling the clinic, just like, it looks sparkly on the outside and it's all closed and done now, which I'm so grateful, but it was not a walk in the park. And while it was a necessary shift for my life and I knew it and I was propelled and like something magically allowed me to drive from there to here, even though I have massive travel anxiety. I know it was meant to be, but damn, I was kicked. So,
Yeah.
how do you discern the difference, or how do you know for yourself that you're on the right path and the universe is allowing the right things to fall away versus the challenges that are presented being necessary or part of the process and not the universe saying, like, no, 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 turn around, turn around? I felt like that quite a bit.
Yeah. That's a really good question. And I feel like that's a question that's going to come up for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty. So with being an entrepreneur, I think the only difference between people that are entrepreneurs and that aren't is that we don't give up and that we are determined to make things work. And
Mm.
we're okay with no's, and we're okay with doors closing in our face, and we say we're going to do it anyway. So I think that that's a big difference, is like I don't see stumbling blocks as no's. And yes, we've had so many challenges. And you know one of your other questions that you had written to me was about finances, and that's a big one. Is like, that was a six-figure business, my massage business,
Yep.
and I didn't sell it. I just closed that shit.
Yeah.
So that business went from 6 figures to 0 figures. So that was challenge number one, is like, holy cannoli, is like, what am I going to do? Do I take out a business loan? Like, do I ask a family member? Like, what am I going to do? But my stubborn ass was like, no, I'm just going to try to do it. And I didn't take out any loans, and we just made it work. So that was challenge number one, two, and three, I'd say. Then when we moved to Sleepy Hollow, my lease hadn't ended yet in the healing center in White Plains. And so I told my landlord, I was like, or my potential landlord, I don't think I can do it, because he wanted me to sign in October. And I was like, my lease isn't in until February. And he's like, well, what if I give you a couple of free months? I
Okay.
was like, okay. And then my landlord in my plans was like, well, you don't have to keep paying for the shop. Like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So those things that I saw as obstacles that I could have freaked out about, like when I presented them to the people that had presented me with the challenges, it turned out to not be as much of a challenge. And yes, I had a lot of health issues, and I had to have, surgery at some point, and all of that stuff was definitely slowed down the progress, but I didn't see them as a stopping of the progress or a stopping of the evolution. And I also feel like sometimes that resistance makes us stronger and really helps us build the tools that we need to get to that next level.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes, I want to say it makes us hard, but it makes us stronger. Like
Yeah.
resistance training, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing. That's our resistance training, and now we're stronger than we were.
Yeah. Hey, friend, quick pause in the episode because I have to share something that's made a huge impact on both my practice and the work I teach inside my courses. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you probably remember the teal cups I started out with. Those were iconic in my early days of teaching cupping therapy. But here's the thing I learned the hard way: not all silicone cups are created equal. I started noticing huge inconsistencies between sets: cups that discolored fast, sharp edges that irritated my client's skin, and it just wasn't cutting it for the level of work I was doing. And in 2020, I found Global Cupping, and I've never looked back. Their cups are hands down the clearest, smoothest, and most consistent silicone cups I've ever used, and I've tried a ton. The difference in quality is immediately noticeable. These cups stay clear even after repeated disinfection, and they're built to stand up to high-level sanitation protocols, something I insist on teaching in my neuromuscular cupping therapy trainings. What I also love is the customizability. I can mix and match sizes in a set, no more stockpiling a bunch of cups I never use, and their silicone facial cups are my absolute go-to now for jaw work. No more rubber bulbs on the glass cups to worry about disintegrating, just easy to clean, durable tools that are comfortable for both the client and the therapist. In my own approach, I combine cupping with movement, massage, and retraining at the neuromuscular junction. And that means I need cups that can move with the body, grip well, and feel safe and smooth on sensitive tissue. These silicone cups, especially the 55 hardness to start with, are perfect for that. And for chronic pain clients, especially those with nervous system dysregulation, the ability to glide, pause, and work in dynamic ways is key to breaking pain cycles. Plus, their customer service, impeccable. I'm a stickler for this. I've had questions, students have had questions, and they're always quick, professional, and just genuinely kind. It makes a really big difference. So whether you're brand new to cupping or you're refining your technique, this is the gear I recommend. It's an investment in your practice that pays off in results, ease of use, and your client's comfort. Use code NEURO at checkout for 20% off your first order at globalcupping.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. For the past a little over a year now, I've been studying Kabbalah, and
Oh,
and to put it very simply, and to potentially not say it as, because this is a complex system, but to potentially like really minimize how complex it is. There's this concept that there's many different layers of the universe, and there's many different existences that are possible. And say, for example, you're here in this universe, but you want to live in the universe where you have okay, let's just put it in my context. I want to live in the universe where I have a really booming massage therapist community where, our community is so much more awesome and supportive than all the Facebook groups and all that stuff. And it's, I have this vision for how the community is really growing in that kind of a way. well, that exists. It's just not yet in the reality that I'm in. We're growing right now, so we're kind of like getting there, but it's in a different level, a different layer. And the way that this one teacher was explaining this was, well, in order to get from here to there, there's, say, there's 37 levels. So there's 37 challenges that you
Hmm.
must go through in order to ascend, so to speak, to that experience. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh, so that's why I went through my 37 or whatever it was
Yep.
challenges, is because by shedding the clinic and really being like, nope, this isn't the reality I want to be in. I want to be in this other reality. I need to be in this other location. I have to live in this different way. I need to let go of those people or those things. Thus, the challenges or whatever that needed to happen in order for me to get to that level happened. And it has me like kind of over intellectualizing this a little bit, being like, okay, well, if I want my life to be chill, then I just need to just be content with where I'm at.
Uh,
So
which
for a
doesn't
minute,
really happen either. So,
yeah, well, actually, I have found a lot of peace. I will say, when it comes to that identity crisis, I've gone full circle with this at this point where I'm really tuned in now to a different version of myself than I was 4 years ago. And with that has come a connection to, and this is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about the hypnotherapy that I'm hopefully spreading. The person that I am now is a lot more content in my day moving slowly with only checking a couple of things off my list because it's still the needle moving, and that is like really fundamentally addicted, so to speak, to my yoga and slow mornings and like really setting the stage for my day. That takes a lot of time. And it doesn't allow me to be as hustle crazy as I was before. I don't drink as much caffeine. For a while, I was even on a slow release caffeine supplement that a functional medicine practitioner gave me. And I was like, this shit's great.
I didn't even know that was such a thing.
That was not a good idea for someone who has a tendency to being addicted to stimulants. So it was not good. I was like, oh, I could just pop the caffeine. Um, but I was able to get like a lot of stuff done, did not sleep, woke up super early in the morning, went straight to the computer, and that's what was killing me. That
Mm.
lifestyle, even though yes, it led to the version of success that I created in that level, that was killing me, and that is what I decided to let go of. And thus shedding that business and that piece of my identity brought me full circle to what does slow, peaceful Gretchen get to experience. And that came with like a withdraw period. I think that a
I'm
lot of that
sure.
brought chaos in its own way as I settled into it. But now, and I'd say probably over the past 3 months, I've really settled into just being like chill, being
That's
really
awesome.
calm. And like even the other day, David did something that historically would have made me really mad. And he came home and he was just like, I'm so sorry. And he's kicking himself. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, what are you kicking yourself? What's going on? What happened? And he didn't even realize that I was not upset. And I was like,
Mm.
oh yeah, I would have been upset about, but no, I'm chill. We're good. It's not like I'm stoned out of my mind all the time. Like I was just legitimately like,
Wow.
oh no, that's not triggering me anymore. And so I really do think on some level, when we, at least in my experience, when I have been hyper vigilant in my business and in that hustle mode, I've also been hyper reactive to a
Yeah.
lot of circumstances in my life, which thus I don't think the challenges necessarily diminish. We kind of get our dosage at the required times, as it
Mm.
must. But the reactivity to it
Yeah.
isn't as strong. And it's the equanimity game, right? The being able to just be like, oh, that sucks. It is what it is. Let's move
Right.
on.
But that's nervous system.
Yep.
That I mean, we know that as body workers and healing practitioners is when you're in that go, go, go all the time, you're going to be more highly reactive and things are going to be so for you to even get to that point where you're just letting things roll off is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that speaks to your being able to regulate your nervous system well. So I feel like that is telling you that you're on the right track also. So a lot of entrepreneurs, are type A, and they need to be in that, and they consider that to be a positive thing.
It was for
And
me for a long time. It worked for
well,
me.
was it positive or was it
Effective.
temporarily functional and
Yeah.
effective? Exactly. Like you can get shit done, but so can machines, and we're not machines.
Yeah.
So at some point your body would have been like, okay, that's enough. You're done with that. Like I'm gonna put your ass down.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable, right? So you could have done that temporarily. You could also, I don't know, you talked about stimulants, take crystal meth for a month and get shit done, but like, is that healthy? No. And is that sustainable? Absolutely not. But
The sustainable
you
body worker does not condone the use of
crystal
crystal
meth.
meth to get things done.
Exactly. So that wasn't a sustainable model for you. Yes, it was effective temporarily, but you now looking back at it can see how it wasn't really good for you.
Yeah, and I think too, it led me toward like pushing harder in a business model that I thought I was 100% behind, but there had actually been signs for a while that like evolution is necessary, and the timing didn't really align. And it makes me think about circling back to, I know I've had so many conversations with you about intuition and tapping into that, but it
Yeah.
makes me wonder too. Okay, well, actually, no, I'm like gonna just agree with myself as I speak. I took a intuition class on Mind Valley. It was one of the first quests that I did on Mind Valley. And that's where I learned the VU breath that I've integrated into no, the the sigh. That's where I learned the sigh. And it's interesting because at that time I was like, oh, the intuition, that's a nervous system thing. She's training us to tell our body when you do that. The only reason we would do that organically is if we're realizing like, oh, everything's comfy and good, or like something
Mhm.
bad was about to happen and then we realized, oh, it's not. I can sigh. And we're basically reverse engineering, just like when we smile on our face, it tells our brain you're happy and it kind of does it in reverse. Same thing for that. And it was an intuition class. What does that have to do with being regulated in your nervous system, right?
Mhm.
But this really makes me think that because recently I'm in the process of birthing something. I don't necessarily need to share a ton of details, but I'm in the process of birthing the new version of my practice. And a lot of it is coming out during a time where previously I was frantic mode, right? I was creating from this frantic, like, go, go, go. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And none of those business ideas worked. And now I'm in this more regulated place and I'm having these organic kind of downloads and like these things that get me like really juicy excited. And actually, just this morning, Alyse, I realized that I finally am going to be able to birth the original vision that I had when I want to say probably like 12 years old. And my original dream so I thought that I birthed that with my clinic, but I didn't. My original dream was verbatim, own my own spa and make my own products.
When you were
And
12?
yeah, I
Oh,
started
wow.
soap making when I was 12. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, this is what I want to do. Like I like just the playing with the ingredients and mixing the ingredients. And then later on I fell in love with just these different body care products. My whole family were like collectors of things from the Body Shop and like all the masks and things like that. But shortly afterward, when I found cosmetology school, I found a cosmetology school that was going to give me this 2 year degree of like all of the things. I was going to be able to do massage as well as the hair and the nails and the waxing and all of that stuff. That was when I told my grandmother about the idea. And she immediately told me, oh, you'll never make any money doing that. And there's a lot of family expectation in that side of the family of getting a university degree. And not necessarily like you have to be a doctor, but I have a cousin who was on track to becoming a doctor. And it was like, oh, she's clearly the favorite cousin, you know?
yeah.
So there was a lot of that. And immediately that dream died. And I
Mm,
thought I rebirthed it with my studio and with the clinic, but with it evolving into a pain relief clinic, I wasn't making my own products.
hmm
I did start to do body wraps and stuff, and I had the sauna. And I started like going there, but it was like the clientele wasn't. That's not what the clientele was. But
Right.
that's what's being birthed now.
Oh, that's
I I just
exciting.
remembered that, like realized that this morning, like, oh, the thing. the thing is finally happening. And I feel like I need to actually do like an inner child meditation type of thing and being like,
Yes.
we're doing it and I need your inspiration to come along. Like,
Oh,
tell me what you originally saw so that we can do this. And yeah, it's just really exciting. And I think a lot of that, to circle back to my point, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have been able to regulate my nervous system and I have
yeah.
been able to be open to that inspiration because I can still get ideas when I'm a nervous wreck, but they're not necessarily inspired. They come
Right.
out of necessity and out of
Right.
my brain programming, knowing what to do in the correct order to make a thing,
Yeah.
but it's not divinely inspired.
I talk a lot about, and I teach intuition for women. And one of the things that I talk about is the idea of like contraction versus expansion. And when you're in that space where your nervous system is in overwhelm, you're in a place of contraction and of constriction. And just like a garden hose, if you have water flowing and you're putting a crimp in it, the energy is not flowing, the water is not flowing. So you might be getting, little drips and drabs of ideas, just like little drips and drabs of water will come through the hose, but it's not like that. So when you release that tension, and when you're in that flow, that's when the energy is going to flow. And that's where love comes. That's where money comes. That's where abundance and always health. So that's the state that we want to always strive to be in. And I think that your nervous system will inform you when you're not in that state. And that's when you're just going to get, more of the challenges and the blocks.
You know that moment at the end of a session when you're completely drained, when your body feels like it's given everything and you just need something to help you reset? Or maybe it's the end of a long day when you're finally out of the treatment room, but your nervous system is still wired, your muscles are still tight, and you can't quite come down from all that output. I've been there, and for years I've tried everything: stretching, foam rolling, Epsom salt baths, heat packs, all helpful, but nothing really gave me that deep grounding reset I was craving. And then I found the Bond Charge PEMF mat. PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy. And I know that sounds intense, but stay with me. Basically, it uses the same natural electromagnetic frequencies found in nature, like the Earth's 7.8 Hertz Schumann resonance, to help your body recalibrate at the cellular level. The mat I use is the PEMF Mat Max, and it's honestly become one of the most valuable tools in my self care toolkit. I'm on it every single day. And here's what makes it so incredible: it combines PEMF therapy with infrared heat, red light therapy, and semi precious gemstones like tourmaline, amethyst, and onyx, all layered together to create this deeply restorative experience. You can choose different frequency settings depending on what you need. There's a delta wave setting for deep sleep, an alpha wave setting for calm and relaxation, a beta wave setting for focus and energy, and a grounding setting that mimics the Earth's natural frequency. And the heat is not just surface level heat. It's far infrared, which penetrates deep into your muscles and tissues. It's like the warmth you feel from the sun, but concentrated and therapeutic, kind of like an infrared sauna without all the sweat. I use mine in two main ways. One, after I'm done with clients for the day, I lie on it for 20 minutes with the delta wave setting. It helps my nervous system shift out of work mode and into rest mode. I sleep so much better on the nights that I use it. And two, I actually use it on my massage table as a heated pad for my clients. The gentle warmth and PEMP frequencies add an extra layer of relaxation and recovery to their sessions. Clients have told me they've never felt anything like it, and honestly, it sets my work apart. And here's the thing: this isn't just for body workers. If you're someone who struggles with sleep, stress, muscle tension, or just feeling depleted at the end of the day, this mat can be a total game changer. It's low EMF, flicker free, and completely non invasive. You just lie on it, choose your setting, and let it work. No pills, no appointments, just 20 minutes of deep restorative support for your body and nervous system. So if you've been looking for a way to actually recover, not just survive, head to the link in the show notes and use the code SUSTAINABLE at checkout for 15% off your order. That code again is sustainable. Just for our Sustainable Bodyworker podcast listeners, you get 15% off. Your body works really hard for you and your clients. this is one of the best ways I've found to give back to it. All right, back to the episode. As we start to kind of wrap this up, I'm curious. I'm sure if anyone has listened this far, there's resonance, right? Like, I assume that there's something that they're gaining from it. Maybe they're in that kind of like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I just jumped, or I just took this leap of faith, or I'm thinking about taking this leap of faith, or I am in this successful version of my business and I don't want to be here. What do I do? What advice would you want to leave them with based off of all of these transformations that you've had in your life and business?
I would say go for it. You only live once. YOLO. This lifetime, you only live it once, and it is too short for listening to other people's. That's the other thing I want to say is like, do not get advice from people that you don't really that aren't in alignment with you. Seek out people like I've asked you for help because I know that we are in alignment. And I want to also leave people. I said that I had given up this six-figure business. We made six figures in 1 month in our shop last year.
Yeah.
So it is more than possible. The other thing that I want to say is that if you're working for somebody else and you feel that call for entrepreneurship and doing something, know that it's an unlimited field, that your potential is so much vaster than you even know. So think back to what we said about the seeds planting in the garden. If you're passionate about something, go for it. I saw the new year just happened. I'm sure it's not when you're posting this, but so many people were like, "Oh my God, I have to go back to work on Monday." I put in my stories on Instagram. I'm like, "If you don't like your job, quit your fucking job." Like, stop doing the things that you hate doing. Stop doing the things that you're resistant to doing. And that is going to change and evolve over the years. And you and I have known each other probably close to 10 years at this point. We have seen each other through so much evolution and so much change. Allow yourselves to do that. And it might feel a little bit scary, but it feels so good when you look back in retrospect and say, okay, I did that. I did that.
Yeah. And just to add a cherry on top of that, I think it's important to keep notes, keep your journals, keep even if it's just the random shit that is your to-do lists day by day, because being able to, we forget so much of what we've accomplished and what we've had to go through in order to get to where we are. So flipping open a random book, for example, I did this a little while ago. I did one when I was like really in the big, like hiring the right people and learning all of these things about leadership, flipping through that and being like, oh, like my days were like really, really heavy and really like I got this felt sense of where I was at that place. And it gives you that ability to compare and contrast how it just gives you that opportunity. So keep those old journals so that you
Yeah.
can really give yourself an opportunity to feel and embody that state.
Hmm.
It's different than being like, oh yeah, that was that way.
Yeah. And even if you haven't done all the things that you wanted to do yet, start looking today, whatever day it is that you're listening to this podcast, and look back on your years and see where you have gone and what has worked for you and what hasn't worked, and where you might have places of resistance still in your life, and kind of manifest where it is that you want to go. Like, what did you want to do when you were 12 years old? What brings you joy? What do you love to do? That's play. I have so many people that I ask, like, what do you love? And they're like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
that's so sad. How do you not know what you love? Because everyone gets caught up in this, like, I need to make money, I need to do this, I need to do that. Do you though? Like, who says?
Yeah.
Redefine. Give yourselves the opportunity to redefine those old stories that you've been telling yourself for so many years.
Yeah. Well, and really, too, what's the point if you aren't able to spend the time doing other things that you love as well?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
life is about being in the now, doing the things that you love. And yeah, there's challenges, just like we say. It's not like, oh, okay, well, I don't like brushing my teeth, so I'm going to stop doing that. And I don't like cooking, so I'm going to stop eating.
Right.
That's not what it's about, but it's about really looking at where we're spending our time, where that energy is being invested, and auditing it and being really real with yourself about that. It's kind of like self parenting.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you've had this similar experience where who are the people in your practice as a massage therapist were like of the most messed up nervous systems? To me, it was the people that were like the CEOs and the people that were in corporate America that they felt like they, quote, couldn't quit or they couldn't take a break. I had clients that experienced severe panic attacks and had to take a month off for mental health leave and deal with that. I had a client who developed a reoccurrence of her cancer, and that idea of like, oh, but I need to keep making more money, I need to keep making money. Why? If you can't enjoy it, if you don't
Yeah.
have your health, if you're not doing the things you love. I don't know what the statistics are, but a lot of people die within 5 years of retirement.
Yep.
So what the fuck are you working for?
Yep.
To have 5 years of retirement and then kick the bucket? Like, do things that you love now. Don't wait.
Agreed. So
Okay.
agreed. Ah, beautiful. Elise, thank you so much for coming on again. I really enjoy just talking with you as a person, as a friend, and you have so much value. You always have those amazing wisdom drops that send you shivers down your spine. I always
Aw.
get excited when that happens. And I'm just so, so grateful for your presence and your friendship and being on here with us again today.
Me too. And I hope that we get to hang out in person again
Yes, ma'am.
soon.
We'll make it happen.
All right, my love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Body Worker. If something resonated for you today, grab your free breakthrough session, which includes a custom hypnotherapy track to help you unlock the next level. Grab it now with the link in the show notes. And to hear more, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time.